High Admiral Kazax's 4 tentacles trembled as they manipulated the holographic display, causing the 3-dimensional image of the approaching entity to flicker ominously in the center of the Alliance's emergency chamber. The creature's normally iridescent skin had dulled to a sickly gray-green, a clear sign of extreme distress among the Cephalodians. "Honorable Council members," Kazax's voice translator wavered. "What you're seeing is no astronomical anomaly. The Voidmaker has claimed its 3rd victim in the Andromeda sector. The Luxury civilization, advanced enough to harness the power of their sun, was reduced to the cosmic dust in less than 30 Earth hours." The chamber erupted in multilingual whispers and crystalline chimes, the various species' expressions of horror. The Voidmaker's path of destruction had been methodical, precise, and absolutely devastating. 3 thriving civilizations, each more advanced than the last, had been erased from existence. Ambassador Jessica Thompson, Earth's first representative to the Alliance, felt her stomach twist as she studied the projection. At 32, she was the youngest ambassador in the chamber and represented what many considered the most primitive species present. Yet something about the destruction pattern nagged at her military training. "High Admiral," she called out, her voice steady despite the tension. "The entity's trajectory, it's not random, is it?" Kazax's tentacles coiled tighter. "No, Ambassador Thompson. Our predictive models are quite certain." The Admiral manipulated the display again, and a familiar blue-green planet appeared in the projection. "Earth is next." The chamber exploded into chaos. The crystalline Arctians began resonating at their panic frequency, while the gaseous Vrel representatives swirled in agitated patterns near the ceiling. "We cannot inform them." The Vrel Elder's thoughts boomed through the telepathic translators. "Humans are too volatile, too unpredictable. They still wage wars among themselves." Jessica rose from her seat, her diplomatic training warring with her growing anger. "With all due respect, Elder, that's precisely why Earth needs to know. We faced extinction-level threats before. In our fiction, our games, our darkest dreams. We've spent centuries preparing for moments like this, even if we didn't know it. Fiction, games." The Arxian representative's crystal structure flickered with dismissive colors. "This is not one of your entertainment simulations, Ambassador. The Voidmaker has destroyed civilizations that mastered gravity manipulation thousands of years ago. Earth has barely achieved rudimentary spaceflight. Yet here I stand," Jessica countered, gesturing to the chamber around her. 50 years ago, we thought faster-than-light travel was impossible. 20 years ago, we cracked it. 10 years ago, we made first contact. We adapt. We evolve. We survive." High Admiral Kazax moved to the center of the chamber, tentacles spread in a gesture of mediation. "The Council must vote. The Voidmaker will reach Earth's solar system in approximately 3 of their months. If we withhold this information, we condemn them without giving them a chance to act. And if we tell them," the Vrel Elder pulsed, "we risk causing global panic that could tear their society apart before the Voidmaker even arrives." Jessica stood straighter, her voice carrying the weight of every human who had ever faced impossible odds. "You fear we'll panic? Let me tell you what we'll really do. We'll analyze every piece of data you have. We'll look for patterns you missed because you think too logically. We'll try solutions your simulations say are impossible because nobody told us they were impossible. And maybe, just maybe, we'll surprise you." The chamber fell silent. Even the Arxians' crystalline hums quieted as the council members exchanged glances. Finally, Kazax spoke again. "We will vote. The question before the council: do we warn Earth of the approaching Voidmaker?" As the voting commenced, Jessica Thompson watched the holographic Earth rotating slowly in the chamber's center. She thought of home, of family, of 7 billion people going about their lives, unaware that an ancient horror was heading their way. She didn't know if humanity could survive what was coming, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty: They deserved the chance to try. Dr. Mike Anderson hadn't slept in 36 hours, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from the data streaming across his quantum displays. The patterns within the Voidmaker's energy signature danced before him, telling a story that the Alliance's most sophisticated AI systems had somehow missed. "Run it again," he muttered, draining his fifth cup of coffee. The Montana State University lab, hastily converted into a global defense center, hummed with activity even at 3 a.m. "There's something here, something they're not seeing." "Dr. Anderson," a voice called from the doorway. Colonel Emily Hayes stood there, her combat boots and military posture contrasting sharply with the academic setting. "The UN Defense Council is waiting for your report." Mike ran his fingers through his disheveled hair. "Tell them I found something. Something big." The colonel's eyes narrowed. "Define big." "The Alliance thinks the Voidmaker is chaos incarnate, but look." He gestured to the complex wave patterns on his screen. "It's like a symphony. There's rhythm here, Colonel. And if there's rhythm, there's predictability," she finished, quickly crossing to his workstation. "Show me." As Mike explained his findings, screens worldwide lit up with emergency broadcasts. But instead of the panic the Alliance had predicted, something else emerged. In New York, engineering students volunteered en masse to help convert subway systems into emergency bunkers. In Tokyo, quantum computing firms opened their servers to a global research network. In Lagos, cellular biologists began investigating radiation-resistant organisms for potential defensive applications. Colonel Hayes watched the reports streaming in on a secondary monitor. "The Alliance expected us to tear ourselves apart," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "They don't understand human nature at all, do they?" Mike shook his head, still focused on his data. "We've spent our entire history preparing for this moment. Every apocalyptic movie, every alien invasion story. They weren't just entertainment. They were training simulations." Speaking of simulations, Hayes pulled up a chair, her typical military formality softening slightly. "What exactly are we looking at here?" Mike's fingers flew across the holographic interface. "The Voidmaker's energy signature has a periodic fluctuation every 17.3 seconds. The Alliance missed it because they were looking for patterns in standard time measurements. But if you convert it to Earth seconds and apply chaos theory," he highlighted a series of repeating waves, "it's not random destruction. It's a harvesting pattern." Across the globe, similar breakthroughs were happening. In Brazil, a team of climatologists discovered how the Voidmaker's approach affected planetary atmospheric conditions. In Russia, theoretical physicists began developing models for manipulating these effects. Every hour brought new insights, new possibilities, new hope. The Alliance's observers watched in bewilderment as their predictions of social collapse proved spectacularly wrong. Instead of riots, they saw organization. Instead of panic, they saw determination. Instead of surrender, they saw innovation. "Dr. Anderson," Colonel Hayes's voice cut through his concentration. "The Joint Chiefs want to know if your discovery can be weaponized." Mike looked up from his screens for the first time in hours, a glint in his exhausted eyes. "Colonel, everything can be weaponized. The question is, are we crazy enough to try what I'm thinking?" Hayes smiled grimly. "Doctor, we're facing a planet-killing space entity that's already destroyed 3 advanced civilizations. I think we're well past the point of worrying about crazy." On her wrist display, global defense readiness indicators were shifting from red to yellow. Humanity wasn't just preparing for survival, they were preparing for war. In orbital stations, telescope arrays reoriented to track the approaching threat. In underground bunkers, supercomputers ran battle simulations based on Mike's findings. And in labs across the planet, scientists like him worked tirelessly, turning fear into determination and desperation into innovation. "Tell the Joint Chiefs," Mike said, pulling up a new set of calculations, "that I'm going to need every quantum computer on the planet, and about 1 million cups of coffee. We're not just going to survive this thing. We're going to beat it." Hayes nodded, already sending the message. The Alliance had expected humanity to break under pressure. Instead, they were about to learn why Earth's species had survived every extinction-level event thrown at them. They didn't just endure chaos. They thrived in it. Dr. Jack Reynolds stood before the United Nations Security Council, his weathered Texas drawl cutting through the tension-filled chamber. Behind him, a holographic projection showed Earth's molten core rotating slowly, its layers peeled back like an onion. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, wiping sweat from his brow, "what I'm proposing isn't just crazy. It's certifiably insane. But given that we're facing a space monster that eats planets for breakfast, I reckon insane is exactly what we need right now." The Alliance representatives shifted uncomfortably in their specially designed seats. The Orcsian delegate's crystalline structure vibrated with obvious distress. "Dr. Reynolds, you cannot seriously propose weaponizing your planet's core. The technological requirements alone are impossible." Jack grinned, pulling up another hologram showing complex energy calculations. 6 months ago, faster than light travel was impossible. 3 months ago, predicting the Voidmaker's patterns was impossible. Maybe it's time we stopped letting other folks define what's possible for us. Dr. Anderson's voice came through the comm system from his lab in Montana. "Jack's right. The Voidmaker's energy signature shows a clear attraction to specific frequencies. If we can modify our core to emit a matching resonance, you'll only make your planet a more attractive target." The Vrel Elder's thoughts boomed. "You'll accelerate your own destruction. Or," Colonel Hayes interjected from her military command center, "we'll control exactly how and when this thing tries to feed. We're not setting out a buffet, we're laying a trap." Jack nodded, expanding his holographic display to show the proposed modifications. Deep Earth drilling points glowed red across the globe, each marking a location where they'd need to insert the newly designed quantum resonators. The technology didn't exist yet, but that was just another impossible problem to solve. "The Alliance gave us 3 months before impact," Jack continued, his voice growing more intense. "The engineering challenges alone should take years. The energy requirements are beyond anything humanity has ever attempted. The precision needed for the core modifications would require technology we haven't invented yet." He paused, looking each council member in the eye. "We'll have it done in 2 months." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and translated alien communications. Jack waited for the chaos to settle, then pulled up his final slide. A timeline for Project Corelance. "We've already begun constructing the drilling facilities. Teams in India and China are working on the quantum resonators. European scientists are finalizing the core frequency calculations. This isn't just American determination. This is humanity united. And if you fail..." The Orcsian delegate's crystalline form pulsed with skepticism. "If your modifications destabilize your core, then we die on our feet, fighting," Colonel Hayes answered firmly. "Better that than running or hiding." Jack expanded the hologram one last time, showing the projected interaction between Earth's modified core and the Voidmaker. The simulation showed energy waves pulsing outward from the planet, creating a complex interference pattern with the approaching entity's own energy field. "Look at that pattern," he said softly, letting the beauty of the physics speak for itself. "The same resonance that attracts it could disrupt its feeding process. We're not just building a weapon, we're creating a symphony of energy that could shake this thing apart." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. What they were attempting went beyond mere defense. If it worked, they would have created something unprecedented in the history of the galaxy. "I have one question." The UN Secretary General finally spoke. "What do you need to make this happen?" Jack's expression hardened with determination. "Everything. Every resource, every scientist, every bit of computing power we can muster. We need the impossible, and we need it yesterday." The Secretary General nodded once, decisively. "You have it. All of it." As the chamber erupted in activity, Jack caught Colonel Hayes' eye on the video feed. She gave him a slight nod. They both knew that the real work was just beginning. Humanity had stopped asking for permission to survive. Now they were rewriting the laws of physics to make sure they did. The Alliance observers watched in stunned silence as humanity began its race against extinction, wondering if perhaps they had underestimated this young species after all. Dr. Amanda Wilson's hands trembled as she lifted her 15th cup of coffee to her lips. Around her, the underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with an intensity that made the air itself feel electric. Holographic displays showed dozens of drilling operations happening simultaneously across the globe, each one pushing the boundaries of what should be possible. Dr. Wilson, a young engineer, burst into her command center, tablet clutched to his chest. The quantum resonator in Mumbai just shattered its containment field. They're asking for your help. She was already moving before he finished speaking, her fingers dancing across the nearest console. The Mumbai feed filled her main screen, showing the sparking remains of what had been their most promising prototype. "Talk to me, Dr. Patel," she called into her comm unit. "What happened?" "The field collapsed when we pushed past 70% power," came the exhausted reply. "But Amanda, you need to see the data from the moment before failure. We broke the Chandrasekhar limit." Amanda froze, coffee cup halfway to her mouth. "That's impossible. The math was wrong." Project Director James Cooper interrupted, striding into the command center. His normally pristine suit was wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes betraying his own sleepless schedule, or rather, our understanding of it was. "Pull up the Mumbai readings." The data streamed across their screens, telling a story that should have been impossible. For a fraction of a second, the resonator had achieved energy levels that violated 3 fundamental laws of physics. "Send this to Dr. Anderson in Montana," Amanda ordered, already running calculations in her head. "If we can stabilize the field at these levels, we can generate 10 times the power we thought possible." James finished. "But the containment will hold if we modify the quantum matrix to account for the new variables." She was already sending updated schematics to every facility worldwide. "Wake up every programmer we have. We need new containment algorithms within 6 hours." Around the globe, similar scenes were playing out. In the Sahara, engineers had cracked the problem of drilling through tectonic plates by developing a quantum tunneling process. Beneath the Pacific, a team of oceanographers had discovered how to use deep-sea vents to cool their equipment beyond theoretical limits. Every hour brought new breakthroughs, new impossibilities conquered. Director Cooper, an Alliance observer, floated near the main display, its crystalline form reflecting the chaos of activity around them. "Your species is pushing technology far beyond safe parameters. The risk of catastrophic failure is still better than certain extinction." James cut in. "With all due respect, we're well past the point of playing it safe." Amanda watched as the global progress indicators ticked upward on her main display. 37 drilling sites now operational, 15 more under construction. Each one represented thousands of hours of work, countless broken rules of physics, and more than a few broken bones as tired workers pushed themselves beyond exhaustion. "Dr. Wilson," another voice called out. "The Berlin team just successfully tested their modified resonator design. They're ready to begin core frequency matching." She allowed herself a small smile. "Tell them to proceed with caution. We can't afford." The entire facility shuddered as a deep rumble rolled through the mountain. Warning lights flashed across every screen. "Status report," James barked. "Sir, our own resonator just achieved 85% power and holding." The excitement in the young engineer's voice was palpable. "Containment fields are stable. We did it." The command center erupted in cheers, but Amanda was already focused on the next challenge. "Get me Dr. Reynolds. If our resonator is working, we need to coordinate with all operational sites. It's time to start tuning Earth's core." As she turned back to her displays, she caught James staring at the countdown timer showing the Voidmaker's approach. 43 days remained. "We'll be ready," she said quietly. He nodded, straightening his tie in a futile attempt at normalcy. We have to be. Humanity has rewritten the laws of physics in 2 months. Now we just have to hope those new laws hold when we need them. The Alliance observer watched in continued amazement as humans pushed themselves beyond all rational limits, wondering not for the first time if perhaps their species' greatest strength was their refusal to accept limitations at all. Dr. Ryan Mitchell stared at his screen until his eyes burned, his former life as a video game designer giving him a unique perspective on the patterns flowing across his display. The control room in the Antarctic Research Station had been his home for the past week, and something about the Voidmaker's energy signature kept nagging at his subconscious. It's like I've seen this before, he muttered, taking another bite of a cold sandwich. But where? Lieutenant Kate Harrison glanced over from her security station. In a game. No, maybe. Wait. He sat up straighter, fingers flying across his keyboard. Kate, pull up the old arcade game patterns we used to track player behavior. The ones that showed how AI enemies would adapt to player strategies. She raised an eyebrow but complied, bringing up the requested data on a secondary screen. What are we looking for? Patterns within patterns. In game design, we used to. He trailed off, his face suddenly pale. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ryan, what is it? Instead of answering, he opened a global communication channel. This is Dr. Mitchell. I need Dr. Anderson, Dr. Wilson, and Colonel Hayes. Now. And someone get me Ambassador Thompson from the Alliance. Within minutes, their faces filled separate windows on his main screen, each showing varying degrees of concern and exhaustion. This better be good, Mitchell, Colonel Hayes warned. We're 38 days from impact. It's not in it, Ryan said, his voice shaking. It's a program. The Voidmaker isn't a natural phenomenon. It's code. Ancient, incredibly advanced code, but code nonetheless. Silence fell across all channels. Dr. Anderson was the first to recover. Explain. Ryan pulled up his analysis. Look at these patterns. They're not random energy fluctuations. They're subroutines. This section here, it's analyzing planetary defenses. This part, resource calculation. It's all programmed responses, just like we used to code for Game AI. Ambassador Thompson leaned forward. Are you saying? The Voidmaker is a weapon, Ryan confirmed. Probably created by some ancient civilization to harvest planetary cores for energy. It's not some unstoppable force of nature. It's a tool. And tools can be broken. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Dr. Wilson's voice came through tight with excitement. If it's a program, it has rules. Limitations. Maybe even vulnerabilities. Exactly. Ryan pulled up more data. See these repeated patterns. They're error-checking routines. The program has to verify each step before proceeding to the next phase of planetary destruction. It's thorough, methodical, and predictable. Colonel Hayes finished. Can we exploit this? Better. Ryan grinned for the first time in days. We can hack it. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Teams worldwide shifted focus from pure defense to analyzing the Voidmaker's programming architecture. Every scrap of data from its previous attacks was re-examined through this new lens. Look at this, Dr. Anderson called out during their third straight hour of analysis. The energy signature variations, they're not random at all. They're command sequences. Lieutenant Harrison, who had remained quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. Like a video game boss with a set pattern of attacks. Exactly like that, Ryan nodded. And just like in games, if you can recognize the pattern, you can exploit it, she finished. Find the weakness in the coding and use it against them. Ambassador Thompson's face showed a mix of hope and concern. Why didn't the Alliance see this? Their AI systems are far more advanced than ours. Because they were looking for what they expected to see, Ryan explained. Sometimes you need someone who spent thousands of hours exploiting game mechanics to recognize a hackable system. Colonel Hayes straightened in her chair. How does this change our defense plans? It changes everything, Ryan said, pulling up Project Core Lance's specifications. We're not just trying to overpower it anymore. We're going to rewrite its code using Earth's core as a delivery system. Dr. Wilson, we need to modify the quantum resonators. Instead of just matching its frequency, we can use them to inject our own commands, she finished, already typing furiously. My God, we might actually have a chance. As the team dove into their new approach, the Alliance observers watched in stunned silence. The Voidmaker had destroyed 3 civilizations more advanced than Earth, yet none of them had fought to look at it as a program to be hacked rather than a force to be fought. Sometimes the simplest solutions required the most complex journeys to discover them. Dr. Tom Bradley's fingers hovered over the activation sequence, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the facility's cooling systems. On screens surrounding his station, the globe pulsed with a network of interconnected quantum resonators, all waiting for his signal. All stations, final status check, he called out, his voice steady despite the weight of 7 billion lives resting on their next few minutes. Commander Lisa Parker's voice crackled through the comm from her position in the orbital command station. Civilian evacuation to underground shelters is at 97%. Remaining surface population is essential personnel only. Mumbai Resonator Bank, ready. Antarctic Station, all systems go. Pacific Deep Sea Array, operational. European Grid, standing by. One by one, every major installation reported in. 27 quantum resonator arrays, all pointed inward at Earth's core, all prepared to turn their planet into the biggest hack attempt in human history. Dr. Mitchell, Tom called out, run me through this one more time. Ryan's tired but determined face appeared on the main screen. The Voidmaker's code requires 3 verification checks before initiating core extraction. We're going to fail those checks in a very specific way, like entering the wrong password so many times it triggers a security lockdown. Colonel Hayes joined the conversation from her military command center. And you're sure this will trap it in a feedback loop? As sure as we can be, Ryan replied. Dr. Anderson's team confirmed my analysis. When the Voidmaker attempts to verify Earth's core composition, our modified signature will trigger its error-checking routines. But instead of moving on to the next target, it'll be forced to repeatedly attempt verification. Dr. Wilson finished, her hands flying over her own controls. Each attempt will further entangle it in our quantum web. The Alliance observation chamber appeared as another window on the main display. Ambassador Thompson stood among the alien representatives, her face showing both pride and concern. The Council wants to know if you understand the risks. If your calculations are off by even a fraction, Earth's core could destabilize, Tom acknowledged. But we're past the point of safe options. Commander Parker's voice cut through the tension. Voidmaker has crossed the lunar orbit, 20 minutes to optimal range. Tom straightened in his chair. All stations, begin power-up sequence. Dr. Wilson, start core frequency modulation. Dr. Mitchell, load the quantum virus package. Around the world, the massive resonator arrays hummed to life. Deep within the Earth, their combined energy began to affect the planet's core, changing its fundamental frequency to match their carefully crafted trap. Warning alerts flashed across every screen as the core's temperature fluctuated wildly. Tectonic stress increasing, someone called out. Plates showing movement in the Pacific Ring. Hold steady, Tom ordered. Dr. Anderson, how's our pattern looking? Energy signature is stabilizing, matching projected frequencies. We're ready for Phase 2. The Voidmaker's massive form now filled their long-range sensors, its energy tendrils already reaching out to probe Earth's defenses. Its surface rippled with patterns that they now recognized as program execution sequences. It's starting its verification scan, Ryan announced, his gaming experience letting him read the patterns like a book. First check in 3, 2, 1. Earth's modified core pulsed in response, sending out a precisely calculated quantum signal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Voidmaker's surface erupted with new patterns, error messages cascading through its ancient programming. "It's working," Ryan shouted. "It's attempting a retry sequence, exactly as predicted." Commander Parker's voice was tense. "Multiple energy spikes detected. This thing is pushing more power than we anticipated. Redirect all auxiliary power to the containment fields," Tom ordered. "Dr. Wilson, prepare to initiate the feedback loop on my mark." The facility shook as Earth's core responded to the dueling energies. On the main screen, the Voidmaker's massive form began to spiral inward, drawn by what it perceived as a failed verification requiring deeper scanning. "Target is locked in Earth's gravitational field," Commander Parker reported. "Point of no return in 30 seconds." Tom took a deep breath, his hand hovering over the final activation sequence. They had one shot at this, one chance to turn humanity's greatest vulnerability, their planet's core, into the deadliest trap ever conceived. "All stations," he called out, "prepare for Phase 3. Let's show this ancient weapon what happens when it picks a fight with modern humans." The world trembled. Major Derek Stone could feel it even from his position in the lead spacecraft of Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet. Through his viewport, the Voidmaker loomed, a writhing mass of dark energy and ancient programming, now caught in humanity's elaborate trap. "All pilots, maintain formation," he ordered, watching as his team of space cowboys, as the media had dubbed them, held their positions around the massive satellite array. "Remember, if those quantum fields collapse, we're the last line of defense." Below them, Earth pulsed with an otherworldly blue glow as billions of years of nuclear fusion were transformed into the galaxy's biggest computer virus delivery system. "Major Stone," Dr. Mitchell's voice crackled through his comm. "The Voidmaker's trying to initiate its third verification sequence. Get ready. This is where it either works or we all die spectacularly." "Copy that, Doc." Derek adjusted his controls, compensating for the increasing gravitational distortions. Always wanted to go out with a bang anyway. The Voidmaker's surface rippled with cascading patterns of light, error messages in a language dead for millions of years. Its massive form twisted in space as it tried to process the contradictory data from Earth's core. Energy spike. Commander Parker's warning came seconds before a blast of pure force rocked the fleet. "It's trying to force a core extraction." Derek watched in horror as one of the satellite arrays began to break apart under the strain. "Array 7 is failing. Jones, Martinez, stabilize that field." Two spacecraft broke formation, racing toward the failing array. The pilots worked with practiced precision, using their ship's own energy shields to supplement the weakening quantum field. "Field stabilizing," Martins reported. "But we can't take another hit like that." Deep within the Antarctic Control Center, Dr. Mitchell's fingers flew across his console. The Voidmaker's adapting faster than expected. It's learning from each failed attempt." "That's impossible," Dr. Wilson cut in. "It's a program. It can't." "It's the most advanced AI ever created," Ryan interrupted. "And we just gave it a reason to evolve. Major Stone, we need those arrays repositioned. The resonance pattern is shifting." Derek's squadron moved as one, adjusting their positions with the kind of precision that came from countless hours of simulation training. They had practiced this dance 1,000 times in the past month, but never with such deadly stakes. "New pattern locked in," Derek confirmed. "Dr. Bradley, you're up." Tom's voice was steady as he initiated the final phase. "Activating core pulse in 3, 2, 1. Earth's modified core released a burst of energy that made the previous pulses look like firecrackers. The Voidmaker's surface erupted with new patterns, its ancient programming struggling to process the flood of contradictory data. "It's working," Ryan shouted. "The quantum virus is uploading." The Voidmaker's locked in a recursive loop. Derek watched in awe as the massive entity began to fold in on itself, its surface crackling with conflicting energy patterns. But something was wrong. The distortions around it were increasing, not decreasing. "All stations, we have a problem," Commander Parker announced. "The Voidmaker's containment field is becoming unstable. If it collapses, the resulting explosion would tear Earth apart," Dr. Wilson finished. "We need to force a controlled shutdown." "No time," Derek said, making a split-second decision. "All pilots, prepare for Protocol Omega." "Major, that's suicide," Colonel Hayes protested. "No, it's necessary." Derek's voice was calm as he began powering up his ship's experimental fusion drive. "We're going to channel that explosion away from Earth. Doc, remember that game trick you told me about? Using the boss's own attack pattern against it. The deflection technique." Ryan's voice showed sudden understanding. "Major, that's brilliant, but the timing would have to be perfect. Then it's a good thing you've got the best pilots in the solar system up here." Derek looked at the Earth one last time, its blue glow reminding him of everything they were fighting for. "All ships on my mark. We're going to show this ancient pile of code why you don't mess with humanity's homeworld." The Voidmaker's surface had become a storm of quantum chaos, its programming trapped between collapse and evolution. As Derek led his squadron into position, he smiled. Sometimes the best solutions were the craziest ones, and humans had always excelled at crazy. The light from the Voidmaker's death throes took 3 days to fade from Earth's sky. When it finally dimmed, it left behind a changed world and a transformed galaxy. Ambassador Jessica Thompson stood before the Alliance Council, her posture relaxed but proud. The chamber, once filled with voices doubting humanity's capabilities, now sat in respectful silence. "The final report from Major Stone's squadron," she announced, her voice carrying clear emotion. "All pilots survived the deflection maneuver. Dr. Mitchell's gaming-inspired strategy worked perfectly. The explosion was channeled safely into deep space." She paused, allowing herself a small smile. "Though I'm told Major Stone is still complaining about the paint job on his spacecraft being ruined." Scattered laughter broke the chamber's tension. Even the crystalline Arctians vibrated with their species' version of amusement. "But the real discoveries," she continued, "came from analyzing the Voidmaker's remains. Dr. Anderson's team confirmed our initial theories. It was indeed a weapon, created by a civilization so ancient they were ancient when the first Alliance species achieved spaceflight." The holographic display behind her showed the fragments they'd recovered, each piece containing technologies that would revolutionize space travel and energy production. Dr. Ryan Mitchell's voice came through the comm system, unable to contain his excitement. "The programming architecture alone is centuries ahead of anything we've seen," he explained. "But it's the way it was designed to adapt and evolve that's truly remarkable. In trying to destroy us, it actually taught us how to build better AI systems." The Vrel Elder's thoughts rippled through the chamber. "Yet you did what 3 more advanced civilizations could not. You saw patterns they missed, attempted solutions they would never have conceived." "Because we had to." Dr. Tom Bradley joined in from Earth. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our refusal to accept defeat, even in the face of impossible odds." Commander Lisa Parker, now promoted to Admiral, stepped forward at the Alliance military headquarters. "The defensive technologies we developed aren't just theoretical anymore. The quantum resonator network is being adapted into a planetary shield system. We're already sharing the designs with other worlds." "Which brings us to the main purpose of this session," Jessica said, straightening her jacket. "Earth formally accepts the Alliance's offer of full membership. However," she held up a hand as excited murmurs filled the chamber, "we have one condition." The council leaders leaned forward, curious. Jessica's next words would be quoted in history books for generations to come. "Humanity doesn't just want to join the Alliance. We want to help lead it. The Voidmaker wasn't the only ancient weapon out there, and we've proven that sometimes the most primitive perspective can find solutions that advanced civilizations miss." She gestured to the data streams showing Earth's recovery efforts. Cities were rebuilding. The quantum resonator network was being expanded, And Major Stone's squadron was already training new pilots in their revolutionary defensive techniques. We offer not just our technology or our resources, but our unique way of thinking. Our ability to see patterns in chaos, to find hope in despair, to turn video games into military strategies, and to rewrite the laws of physics when the old ones don't suit us. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of approval, translated from 100 different species' methods of expression. As the formal acceptance proceedings began, Dr. Mitchell's voice came through Jessica's private comm. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "we should probably tell them about the reverse-engineered Voidmaker tech we're using to develop FTL 2.0. Jessica suppressed a grin. "Let's save something for the next meeting. Humanity's got to maintain some mystery, after all." As she looked out over the assembled Alliance representatives, she couldn't help but feel proud. Earth hadn't just survived. They had transformed galactic civilization's understanding of what was possible. And somewhere in deep space, Major Stone and his squadron were already plotting new patrol routes, ready to face whatever ancient horrors might lurk in the darkness. Because that's what humans did best. They adapted, they overcame, and they turned their greatest challenges into their greatest achievements. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how they liked it.